Like father, like son is often said when drawing parallels between a father's nature and that of his offspring, implying a continuity of both good and bad. But should children be held accountable for the sins of their parents? This question undoubtedly haunted the minds of many Holocaust combatants and victims after the conclusion of World War II. When we think of Goebbels, Himmler, and Göring, we envision dehumanized monsters. However, the truth is that beyond their roles as war criminals, they were also family men. One might assume that the children of Nazi leaders faced lives of misery and repudiation, but prepare to be surprised. The paths taken by the descendants of Germany's Nazi hierarchs were far from uniform. Some chose to collaborate with war criminals, while others outright rejected the memory of their parents. In this video, we uncover the identities and fates of the children of Nazism, unraveling the intriguing tapestry of their lives. Gudrun Himmler was the daughter of Heinrich Himmler. He was the chilling mastermind behind the Holocaust and the head of the SS, who orchestrated one of the most horrifying chapters in human history. From 1933 to 1945, Himmler played a central role in implementing Adolf Hitler's genocidal vision. Under Himmler's command, the SS, or Schutzstaffel, transformed into a ruthless paramilitary organization responsible for perpetrating heinous crimes against humanity. Himmler's iron grip extended to overseeing the construction and operation of concentration camps, where innocent men, women, and children were subjected to unspeakable horrors. The most notorious among these camps was Auschwitz-Birkenau, where Himmler's SS units unleashed a systematic campaign of extermination. As the chief architect of the Holocaust, Himmler's orders resulted in the deaths of over 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, including Romani people, Polish civilians, political dissidents, and LGBTQ+ individuals. Yet, within his dark existence, he had a daughter named Gudrun. Dubbed the Nazi Princess, Gudrun Himmler remained fiercely loyal to her father throughout her life, cherishing his memory like a treasured heirloom. Her recollections transport us to haunting places, as she nostalgically recalls accompanying her father to the sinister grounds of Dachau, the inaugural Nazi concentration camp. While her eyes witnessed the horrifying sight of disheveled prisoners, their faces etched with suffering, Gudrun's attention was captivated by the camp's vegetable garden, a fleeting reminder of her idyllic childhood farm. With unwavering pride, Gudrun watched her father's ascent through the ranks of the Nazi regime, going as far as to affectionately refer to Adolf Hitler as Uncle Hitler. The annual gifts bestowed upon her by the Führer himself, a doll and chocolates, further cemented her devotion to her father's cause. Convinced of her father's innocence, Gudrun became an unwavering advocate, dedicating her life to the restoration of his tarnished reputation. Her humble abode on the outskirts of Munich transformed into a shrine to his glory, every nook and cranny an homage to his twisted legacy. But Gudrun's commitment went beyond the confines of her home. In the early 1950s, she joined a German group dedicated to aiding former Nazi soldiers, and soon after founded her own organization called Viking Youth, reminiscent of the infamous Nazi Youth. However, her extremist inclinations eventually led to the banning of her group in Germany in 1994, failing to extinguish the fervor that burned deep within her. Gudrun's personal life mirrored her unyielding allegiance. She chose to marry Wolf Berwitz, a Bavarian civil servant and unapologetic Nazi sympathizer. Together, they formed a family unit in a tranquil Munich suburb, raising their children within the shadow of a dark legacy. Gudrun reached the peak of her controversial journey when she became deeply involved with a secretive group called Stille Hilfe, which means silent aid. In this enigmatic organization, she became a prominent figure, providing support to former SS members. Shockingly, her involvement extended to assisting the likes of Klaus Barbie, the infamous Butcher of Lyon, in evading justice by seeking refuge in South America. Furthermore, she offered her unwavering backing to Martin Sommer, a sadistic SS officer infamous as the Hangman of Buchenwald. Much like Gudrun Himmler, who carried the weight of her father's infamous legacy, another such person was Edda Göring, daughter of Hermann Göring, Hitler's right-hand man, and who was born into a world of power and privilege. Hermann Göring, the head of the Luftwaffe, or German Air Force, and Adolf Hitler's designated successor, was among the most influential figures within the Nazi regime. Yet, his crimes caught up with him, and after the war he was convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity, ultimately choosing to take his own life. In her childhood, Edda was showered with affection and lavish gifts from her adoring father. He went to great lengths to indulge her, even purchasing a remarkable 50-meter model of Frederick the Great's palace. However, as the war ended, Edda's life took a different path. She pursued a career as a law clerk, worked in a hospital, and dedicated herself to caring for her mother. Her later years were marked by a withdrawal from public life. Despite the weight of evidence against her father, Edda steadfastly refused to accept his guilt. Her unwavering support for him persisted until her death in 2018, echoing her childhood memories of a loving and doting father. Nicholas Frank, on the other hand, emerged from the shadow of a different Nazi leader, his father, Hans Frank, infamously known as the Butcher of Poland. Hans Frank, Hitler's personal legal advisor and the governor of Nazi-occupied Poland, orchestrated the exploitation and murder of countless Poles. His reign of terror earned him the moniker that would forever stain his name. Like Hermann Göring, Hans Frank faced the consequences of his actions and was ultimately hanged as a war criminal. Within the Frank family, turmoil reigned. Hans and his wife, Brigitte Herbst, had 5 children, but their marriage was marred by unhappiness and attempted divorce. The fate of the Frank children varied. Sigrid, an ardent Nazi supporter, emigrated to South Africa, while another daughter, Brigitte, tragically took her own life in 1981. Michael and Norman, Hans's sons, passed away in 1990 and 2010, respectively. Nicholas Frank, the sole surviving child of Hans Frank, chose a different path. He confronted his father's crimes head-on, penning a powerful book titled The Father, A Settling of Accounts, where he openly scolded his father for his heinous acts against humanity. For Nicholas, a haunting reminder of the depths of human evil is carried with him at all times. A photograph of his father taken after his hanging. Moving on, we have to talk about Albert Speer, Hitler's favorite architect and influential member of his inner circle, who played a significant role in the Nazi regime. As Hitler's confidant and the Minister of Armaments and War Production, Speer utilized forced labor and underground factories to bolster Germany's military production. However, his actions would lead to his eventual conviction at the Nuremberg trials in 1946, where he was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity, resulting in a 20-year prison sentence. Within his own family, Speer maintained a distant and detached demeanor. Even after his release from prison, he remained disconnected from his children, refusing to establish meaningful connections. Despite this, his eldest son, Albert Speer Jr., inherited his father's architectural talent and achieved great success in his own right. He emerged as a prominent architect, even taking the lead in designing the venues for the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, China. Throughout his life, Albert Speer Jr. grappled with the weight of his father's dark legacy, seeking to distance himself from the atrocities committed. Hilda Speer, another of Albert Speer's children, embarked on a different path, dedicating herself to helping the victims of anti-Semitism and Nazi atrocities. As a prominent politician, she worked to distance herself from her father's actions and promote healing in the wake of the atrocities committed during Hitler's regime. Margareta Speer, an archaeology student turned photographer, also sought her own way of confronting her father's absent presence. In her book titled Are You Speer's Daughter?, she delved into the complexities of her relationship with her father, shedding light on the impact of his emotional distance. Arnold Speer, the community doctor, followed a different career altogether, focusing on healing and providing care to others in his community. Through his chosen profession, he contributed to the betterment of society, seeking to make a positive impact that stood in contrast to his father's actions. Transitioning to another figure grappling with a notorious father's legacy, we encounter Wolf Rüdiger Hess, the son of Rudolf Hess, Hitler's deputy. Rudolf Hess, a leading member of the Nazi Party, actively supported anti-Semitism and played a role in the Holocaust. In 1941, he made a notorious flight to Scotland in an attempt to negotiate peace with Great Britain, only to be promptly arrested upon arrival. Found guilty of crimes against peace, he served a life sentence, ultimately committing suicide in 1987. Wolf Rüdiger Hess, named in honor of Hitler, became an architect and spent his life campaigning for his father's release and rehabilitation. He openly questioned the official account of his father's suicide, believing instead that the British Secret Service orchestrated his father's murder to silence him. Writing 3 books about his father, Wolf sought to shed light on the controversial circumstances surrounding his father's imprisonment and death, forever marked by the shadow cast by Rudolf Hess's actions. In the intricate tapestry of the Nazi legacy, we encounter Martin Bormann Jr., son of Martin Bormann, Hitler's infamous private secretary. As Hitler's right-hand man, Bormann had immense control and power, wielding his authority to advance the Nazi agenda. He actively supported and endorsed the extermination of Jews and Slavs, aligning himself with the abhorrent ideology of racial superiority propagated by the Nazi regime. Bormann's influence extended beyond his administrative duties, as he played a key role in implementing policies that resulted in the systematic persecution and murder of millions. Under Bormann's watch, the Nazi regime employed brutal tactics to enforce their twisted version of a racially pure Germany. Forced labor and exploitation became commonplace, with countless individuals subjected to grueling work conditions, dehumanization, and unimaginable suffering. The concentration camps, notorious symbols of Nazi terror, bore the hallmark of Bormann's complicity. Innocent lives were extinguished as part of the systematic genocide orchestrated by the regime. The extent of Bormann's crimes extended to the manipulation of German industries, as he used his position to bolster the German war machine. Under his guidance, underground factories and forced labor were employed to maximize military production, prolonging the war and inflicting immeasurable suffering on both civilians and prisoners of war. As the war neared its end, Martin Bormann Sr. chose to avoid capture by the Soviets, opting to end his own life. However, his dark reign left behind a family marked by his own insidious actions. In 1929, Martin Bormann married Gerda Buch, resulting in the birth of their 10 children. Yet, the magnitude of their family did not prevent Bormann Sr. from engaging in extramarital affairs, further tarnishing his already tainted legacy. Among his children, Martin Adolf Bormann Jr., often referred to as the Crown Prince, held the position of eldest son. As a teenager, he embraced the ideals of Nazism, fully immersed in the fervor of the Nazi movement. However, the weight of his father's sins weighed heavily upon him in the aftermath of the war. Seeking solace and redemption, Martin Jr. embarked on a remarkable transformation. He embraced Roman Catholicism and became a priest, shedding his middle name, Adolf, which bore the dark associations of his father's namesake. Working as a missionary in the Congo, he endured the unimaginable, being abducted multiple times and facing the threat of death. He saw his suffering as God's punishment for his father's sins, bearing the burden of collective guilt. His journey took an unexpected turn when he fell in love with a nun. Choosing love over priesthood, he married her in 1971. Martin Jr. redirected his path, using his voice as a platform to educate future generations about the horrific crimes perpetrated by the Nazi regime. He visited schools in Germany and Austria, passionately speaking about the atrocities committed under Hitler's rule. His quest for understanding and reconciliation led him to Israel, where he met with Holocaust survivors, seeking to confront the depths of his father's sins firsthand. Within the web of Nazi infamy, the offspring of Joseph Goebbels, the notorious minister of propaganda, faced a unique and harrowing reality. Goebbels, a master manipulator and ardent supporter of Adolf Hitler, played a key role in perpetuating the regime's twisted ideology, advocating for anti-Semitism and playing a significant part in the implementation of the Holocaust. In 1931, Goebbels married Magda Ritzel, and together they had 6 children: Helga, Hildegard, Helmut, Hodina, Hedwig, and Heidrun. Additionally, Goebbels adopted Magda's son, Harold Quandt, from her previous marriage. The family's association with Adolf Hitler was so deep that, at the end of World War II, they chose to join him in the bunker in Berlin, defying an offer from Albert Speer to smuggle their children to safety. In the face of imminent defeat, and following Hitler's suicide, Joseph and Magda Goebbels made a chilling decision. They approached Hitler's personal physician and requested the administration of cyanide to their 6 children. After their children's tragic deaths, Joseph and Magda ended their own lives, leaving a legacy tainted by their involvement in the Nazi regime's atrocities. The aftermath of their demise brought forth complex narratives among the surviving children of these Nazi officials. Some remained fiercely loyal to their fathers, standing by their side despite their horrific crimes. Gudrun Himmler, daughter of Heinrich Himmler, provides a striking example of unwavering loyalty in the face of unspeakable acts. Her steadfast defense of her father's memory serves as a perplexing reminder of the bonds that can endure even in the darkest of circumstances. Conversely, there were those who openly rejected and condemned their fathers and the atrocities they committed. Among them, Nicholas Frank, son of Hans Frank, emerged as one of the most vocal critics. His searing condemnation of his father's actions and his determination to settle accounts with the past highlights the complex journey of confronting a legacy intertwined with immense guilt and shame. However, amidst these narratives, it is crucial to recognize the innocence of the children themselves. As young individuals, they were shielded from the horrors unfolding around them, unaware of the extent of their father's crimes. In a bitter twist of fate, their very existence, born of Nazi leaders, stood in stark contrast to the childhood stolen from countless innocent victims of the regime. The legacy of the Nazi leaders reverberates through the generations. It underscores the profound impact that parental actions can have on the lives of their children, shaping their identity and leaving an indelible mark on their journey. The intricate complexities of their stories remind us of the weight of history, the choices we make, and the responsibility to confront the dark truths of the past. As Martin Adolf Bormann Jr. poignantly states, quote, "You never escape from your parents, whoever they are," encapsulating the enduring connection that binds children to their parents, regardless of the crimes committed. Now, we would like to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the ideologies adopted by the children of Nazi leaders who either defended their fathers or vehemently denounced their actions? Please share your insights and thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more compelling episodes of military history. Together, let's continue to learn.